Welcome back. It is June 24th, 2011. This is the Friday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye. We're going to get right back into the assassination of General George S. Patton. Now, before we went to break, I was telling you about the Jedburgh agent who came out and spoke to Wilcox, the author of the book, Target Patton, and he admitted about his involvement in the assassination of Patton. Well, his name is Douglas DeWitt Bazata. His last name is spelled Bazata. Bravo Alpha Zulu Alpha Tango Alpha. Douglas DeWitt Bazata. And that is the name of the former OSS Jedburgh agent who claims that he was involved in the assassination of General Patton, amongst many other things that he did for the OSS. The head of the OSS at the time was a guy named Wild Bill Donovan, who would also later head up the CIA. Wild Bill was a really bad man. And I could do a whole show just about him. The best I could tell you to do, without me getting off on a tangent here on just him alone, is to tell you to go get the book and go check him out yourself. Go look up who he was, Wild Bill Donovan. Check him out, do your homework. Again, this is a very interactive show. I always tell people, make sure you have a pen and a pad during my show, because I'm going to say things or name names and stuff I want you to check out for yourself. So there's a name, write it down, Wild Bill Donovan, head of the OSS during World War II. Check him out. Anyway, there was a lot of things that were going on, shady things that were going on, that Patton was aware of and he was going to open his mouth about when he had gotten back. He had been fired by Eisenhower as head of the Third Army. And when you get fired in the military, you're still in the military, you have a contract with them. It's just you get fired from that position and you get moved on to another position. Sometimes, usually if you're in command of something and then you get fired, usually you're moved to a desk-type position or something like that. Or, you get stuck, in charge of a storage facility somewhere. But there were very shady things going on. Patton would never have allowed that kind of crap to happen to him, and he was too loudmouth and rambunctious, and they were afraid of, what he knew and what he was going to say. He was going off at, they would have banquets because at the end of the war, now they're trying to bring everything back together. And Patton, they wanted to do the same thing. The American government and the people that were fixing Europe, rebuilding it after the war, had the same attitude and the same outlook. And obviously you could see that there was an ulterior motive, or else they, 60 years apart, two groups had the same idea. They wanted to get rid of all the Nazis, the same way the Bush administration wanted to get rid of all the Ba'ath Party members in Iraq, which was a bad idea. And everybody said it was a bad idea, but they did it anyway. And in hindsight, everybody's like, well, we shouldn't have done that because, look, it caused all the sectarian violence and everything else. And, of course, that was also fomented by the CIA. But the point is they did the same thing. They had the same train of thought. And they wanted to get rid of all these Nazis. And Patton said, no, that's stupid. First of all, why would we get rid of not all the German military were Nazis, first of all. And the Nazis that were there, a lot of them weren't really ardent Nazis. They had just joined the party kind of to keep their rear end out of the fire and to go with the flow. And a lot of them, the ones that Patton was dealing with, he had a lot of, I don't want to say spies, but he had the German army intelligence officers coming to him and saying, hey, look, we can help you. We know how the Soviets work. Because now, just because we worked with the Soviets, don't think that we didn't realize that they were evil. Of course, if you go check out Roosevelt and then you check out, after he died, I'm having a brain hemorrhage right now. the little tiny one, the little Mason that took over after him, he was his Truman. He, Truman didn't want to think, he liked Joe Stalin. He used to call him Uncle Joe. And whether or not Truman knew it and just didn't care, or, that's up for debate. You'd have to actually, you would have had to, have to get into his head or know him to know the truth. But his actions at least show, at the very least, that he didn't want to believe that the Soviets were spying on us. And the evidence shows, and this is all documented records that Wilcox was able to get out of, the Library of Congress and everything, and he asked the government for, because, some of this stuff is over 60 years old when he was asking for it. So it was beyond, being classified. There was obviously no reason to have any of this stuff classified. And it had been sitting around for so long. A lot of the classified designations had, they had since worn, for lack of a better term, worn off, expired. And now a lot of this stuff was free. And that's why a lot of this stuff from World War II is now coming out now, because it was classified for so long, because they wanted everybody that was involved with the shady stuff to be dead before it came out. That way there could be no repercussions. That's what the whole – people need to wake up. That's what the whole classification thing is for, okay? That's why the Kennedy assassination, that stuff was supposed to be released already within the past few years. And when Obama got in office, the first thing he did was sign it. And apparently he signed it so that there will be no release of it. It's indefinitely being classified, all the information that they have on the Kennedy assassination. So that goes to show you they know that if any of it came out, that they would be proved to be liars and proved to be wrong. No other reason to cover it up. Anyway, Patton was going to all these functions, as it were. And, so when you're a general, sometimes he was they had made him like the governor of, and I forget which area it was in Germany, but a large chunk of it. And he was in charge there. He was, running the city. And that's when all these German officers were coming to him, and the Germans wanted to work with him. And, of course, he was seen as a bad guy, and I'm doing air quotes, bad guy, because he wanted to work with the Germans. Because now they knew that the Germans were no longer a problem. They were defeated. Now the Soviets were the ones you had to keep your eye on. And the Germans had more infiltration into the Soviet bloc and into, understanding the KGB and the Soviet intelligence networks, whereas the Americans didn't. We didn't have this understanding that they did. They dealt with them for a long time. We didn't. And Patton knew a lot of this. Patton understood things. He was a smart man, and he would speak to these German generals and stuff. And he had a couple of them working for him, and he caught hell for it. He got in trouble for it, and finally Patton was fed up with everything. And when he was coming, obviously he was planning on coming home, and he had told his wife that if he had made it home, because he didn't think he was going to make it home, but if he did make it home, he was planning on running for some sort of political office, which he would have gotten in a heartbeat, because everybody in America loved him. Didn't matter if the military brass were pissed off at him, anybody that might be above him, because he was a 4-star. So the few people that were above him might be pissed at him, and the president might be pissed. But he didn't care, because the general public loved him. He was going to come home, and he was going to tell what he knew, which I will tell you when we come back on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Till we have your arrest, we will not rest, and we know what you did that day. Kill your own citizens to advance your ways. All my real patriots stand up and say 9/11 was an inside job. They lie, they scam, they cheat and steal. They plot, they fund, they act, it's real. They watch, they hunt, they punish and kill.